Well, hello there, and welcome to another tank review. I'm Corny Swiss, and today we'll be looking at the SU-152, a Russian Rank 3 5.0 battle rating tank destroyer. Now, as with all reviews, if there's something in particular you want to see, all the various parts of this review are timestamped down below. I think we have realistic gameplay, simulator gameplay, and opinion, all that stuff timestamped below, so if you want to see something else, it's all there. So feel free to jump off to whatever you want to do. Now, if you want to hear the garage portion, let's get started. So the SU-152 is another tank that was developed to meet a need that the Russian army was facing. The need was most strongly felt on when the Stalingrad counteroffensive was launched. I think it was Operation Uranus. The issue was that the Germans had, dug in positions, fortified positions, machine gun nests, things like that. And frontline Russian troops really didn't have a way of dealing with these effectively. It didn't have the firepower. And a lot of times the 152 millimeter field guns and things like that were like horse drawn, or it took just too long to get them to the front. They broke down a lot. They would be lost just in the mud or whatever. So Russian designers decided we need something to combat this need, and with that majestic image right there, they decided to take a tank chassis, put an upper casement on it, and slap that same 152 millimeter field gun onto this machine and use it as an assault gun. The goal being it packs just 8 high explosive shells, goes forward, the infantry find the machine gun nests or whatever. One of these things drives up and just blasts it into the Kingdom Come. Delivers healthy amounts of the good news for the Russians. Very unhealthy amounts of good news for the Germans, that's to say the least. There's about 152 millimeters excess good news for the Germans in this case. This tank entered service in 1943. And was actually still in service until 1954 because it fills a niche role that's important. Now, this tank as a tank destroyer, it was actually never tested with AP shells when it was being designed. This wasn't going to be a tank destroyer. Tank destroyers follow a different philosophy most of the time, and they have maybe smaller caliber shells or smaller shells, but they're high density, and they're designed to punch through big armor. Well, this tank wasn't designed to punch through armor. It was designed to blow out, pillboxes and things like that. Well, what was determined kind of in the field and also in later tests is that these HE shells are actually really, really effective against tanks. I mean, go figure. Big, heavy HE shells hitting tanks knocks them out. Okay. So these tanks were rushed into service as tank destroyers and could serve both roles. And as we see in the game, they're actually really effective tank destroyers. That's fairly certain to say. But before we talk about the gun, let's talk about maneuverability, things like that. Let's talk about that stuff first. 45.5 ton machine, 600 horsepower, 2,200 RPM, 45 km/h top speed. Okay. This thing is actually it's not slow, and it's not fast. It turns okay, and it's fine. Maneuverability is not something you really complain about in this tank. It's faster than the KV series of tanks, and it carries a big gun, and its maneuverability is pretty solid. There's not much you can complain about. A lot of times you don't want to be up close anyway. Usually medium range is where you're living in this thing. You want to be close enough where you can hit the target, but not so close that they can circle you and things like that. And most of the time you do best maybe 500 meters away, because this tank it does the same damage to an enemy tank regardless of how far away you are. It's just hitting them. And I found the sweet spot to kind of be 500 meters, just because it's a good spot to be at. Usually you're far enough away where you're not the center of attention, but it's easy enough to get shells on target, and maybe you're not what they're looking at when you roll around the corner, things like that. Maximum inclination, 39 degrees, go up a 39-degree slope if you ever wanted to. Turret rotation speed, that refers to the gun traverse and how long it takes to move, or how fast it moves side to side. 8 degrees a second, that's plenty fine. I mean, it doesn't have a particularly large gun arc anyway, so it traverses that gun arc pretty quick. Vertical guidance, 3 degrees of gun depression, 20 degrees of elevation. Now the elevation is actually important on this tank because it has this howitzer. So shooting really far away targets could actually be an issue, but what I've found is that, I mean, normally you're not engaging targets in excess of like 2,000 meters. That's just not what what combat ranges are in this game. Not yet. If they add super huge maps that are just wide open plains, maybe. But even on Kursk, I mean, the longest I think I've ever shot a tank was like 1,700 meters. And this tank can raise the gun to 7 and shoot at some 1,700 meters away. Now the variation from that gun means you probably won't hit them, but you can do it. 3 degrees of gun depression, that's kind of an issue. However, given that the shells are low velocity, they kind of, in a way, increase that gun depression, because you think about it, if they're far away from you, you don't have to point the gun at them. You need to point it above them anyway. So, you essentially have that much more gun depression, if that makes any sense. But gun depression, it's something you need to get used to if you want to play these Russian tanks. They generally have very poor gun depression, especially with large caliber guns like 122 millimeter, 152 millimeter. But if you're used to it, it's perfectly fine. So not much of a surprise there. So let's talk about the armor. Pull up the damage model, the armor model rather. So 75 millimeters at the front, true, right? It's the hull part is 60. This tank was designed to basically to cost less than equipping like a heavy tank or something like that, because it was just supposed to bring this gun to the front and blast pillboxes. It wasn't really designed to take fire from tanks, but it does have a little bit of armor here. 75 millimeters, pretty good, KV-1-esque. 60 millimeters on the hull, that's not great, but it is angled. Constructed angle on the upper casement, 30 degrees, so it's effectively about 85 millimeters is about what you get out of this. About this is pretty solid, over 130, 71 degree slope, you can expect that. The lower plate, 72, 23 degree slope. I mean, normally they aren't going to shoot you there. Normally they're going to shoot you right here, this big football field of a front plate. This is where they want to shoot you, and we'll explain more of that when we get to layout. I've noticed a trend that most tanks don't want to get shot right here. Now, something that's nice. Alright, so the side armor is 60 millimeters. Alright, that's not good. The side of the hull is also 60 millimeters. Well, that means that this tank can actually angle, and I'll show you what I mean. So you'd say, looking at this tank, that the more you angle this way, the less sloped this becomes, and you'd be right. That's a true statement. From here, these are unpennable. When you start angling, you start taking armor away from here and basically moving it to here. Right? This is now over 100. This is about 90. So that could be an issue. However, I've found that if you can angle just right, about here I think, well, maybe a little bit more, you can get the thickness of your front plate to just about 100, and this side will still be just about 100. And the side of the side of your tank will still be very thick, and your lower plate will be over 100. You can basically present them an armor profile that's over 100 in all respects, which I think is better than presenting them maybe this, where this is only 80, right? If they can penetrate 100 millimeters, they're going to penetrate you frontally anyway. Might as well make it a little bit tougher. I would normally recommend angling more to this side, because now you have the gun mantlet and all this that's going to help protect you. Angling this way, you still expose the weakness of your tank right here. You can use the gun mantlet and stuff as like a shield, I guess. So it's better to angle to this side. But if you can do it and maintain about 100 millimeters basically everywhere, you're a much tougher cookie to crack, and maybe you'll survive that hit that means you can now bring your gun to bear and blast them. Something to consider. I mean, as I already said, side armor 60, 60. I mean, get hit in the side, you're kind of toast. 60 at the back, 60 at the back. So it's 60 all around except here, which is 75. Okay, that's fairly good. Let's talk about the layout. Alright, first thing you'll notice, this tank, it's supposed to carry 20 rounds of ammunition. I see a lot more than 20 rounds of ammunition in there. There's a lot of ammunition in there. I think it's just they haven't done the model, or they haven't put in the 152mm shell X-ray model thing. Because on, for example, the 122mm guns, the shells are much bigger than that. So this thing is the upper casement is basically made out of ammo. The lower part of the front section of the hull is basically made out of ammo. It says this guy's a machine gunner. There are no machine guns on this tank, so he's actually just another loader, as far as I can tell. You have your loader, machine gunner, basically another loader, commander, gunner, driver. Now, where most of the time where you'll get hit is right here, basically through your driver's head. That'll clip the gunner and set off this ammo right here. Another place to shoot this tank is in the lower part of the hull right here. That's really a weak spot, and there's a stack of ammo here and a stack of ammo behind it. Side of the tank, I mean anywhere in the upper casement basically is ammo, and the back is all fuel tanks. So, you know, except on this side I guess it's a radiator, but fuel tanks. So the front half of the tank is ammo, the back half is fuel and radiator and engine and transmission and things like that. So a lot of times when you get hit, you'll lose your driver and your gunner just because they're sitting next to each other. And people like to shoot through the front part of this section of the tank. You can also be set on fire because if the shell goes through, it can just hit this fuel tank, which is also in the side of the upper casement. Now, the big thing though is this is a big open area inside the upper casement. So if a shell penetrates and explodes or fragments, you're toast anyway. Everyone's getting the good news. It's like they stamped an extra 500 papers and just put them all in this tank. So in terms of layout, I mean, it's ammo and fuel. But it's kind of what most tanks are, I guess. You're going to get hit through this spot, so that's why I kind of recommend angling like this. You know, if your commander gets knocked out, that's not the worst thing in the world. It's better to have your driver and gunner than your commander, honestly. So, that's the armor and the layout. Let's talk about the gun. And honestly, it's one of my favorite guns in the game. Ooh, I can buy this. Yes, I will. Thank you. I've deleted it now. Yay! Alright. 152mm ML-20S cannon. 20 rounds of ammunition. You have 3 ammo choices. You have this starter AP, which normally I say on high caliber tanks, don't fire AP. The SU-152 can be a little bit different because it runs into Tigers. And it has AP shells that can deal with Tigers at close ranges. However, that being said, this first AP shell I don't think is up to the task. Because at close ranges you can hit them with HE very reliably, and actually, come to think of it, the muzzle velocity on the HE shell is better. So realistically you can be more accurate probably with this HE than you can with this AP. So why use it? I don't know. Honestly, I don't fire AP from this gun. I keep some, I have a 15-5 split HE to AP of this better AP. Mainly because what if, you know, I have a Tiger, he's right there, but I mean he's angled, he's bouncing my shells, and I need to penetrate. Like the HE just isn't getting it done. Well, then I maybe throw an AP at him. But as far as I can tell, HE always gets the job done. So let's talk about the HE a little bit more. 75mm penetration in all ranges, doesn't really matter. 43.6 kilogram shell, that does matter. 655 meters per second muzzle velocity, that matters too. What does all this mean? Okay, it's a big ass shell. That's the first thing you need to know. 655 meters per second muzzle velocity is better than the AP. Alright, that's pretty good, right? 600 and 600. So it'll be easier to hit things with this AP, with this HE, rather, sorry. And if you, no matter what you hit, if you hit it in the face, it'll die, or be severely disabled. Okay, so why should I fire the HE, or the AP? I don't know. I wouldn't. I'm of the opinion that 152mm gun at this rank, fire HE. Because it's the most effective round, at this tier. Tigers and Panthers, you'll see in the replay, they can't stand up to this shell. So why fire anything else, really? In my opinion, it's just all around the best shell for this tank. So I keep some of this around. I mean, it has pretty good penetration, 117 millimeters at 1,000 meters. But it just, I mean, it is a heavier shell, but it just doesn't do it for me. The muzzle velocity doesn't, and the just the fact that the penetration is okay, but it's not great. If it was super great penetration, I would use this more, but HE, I mean, just gets the job done. You know, the roof of their tank is only 40 millimeters, so if you hit the face of the turret, the shrapnel is going to go down through the roof of the tank and just wreck them. Alright? I can kind of show you what I mean really quick. Here's my Tiger, right? Let's say you shoot the face of the turret right here. You're not going to penetrate that. Alright? I mean, let's look at the gun manlet. 140 millimeters. No, you're not going to penetrate that. No way. Right? You're not even going to penetrate this. The roof of the tank, though, is 26 millimeters. Right? Straight, and the shrapnel will become straight down. Oof. So that means if you hit them right here, it basically only has to penetrate 26 millimeters. Very doable. Hitting a Tiger in the turret like this almost always knocks it out. With very rare exceptions, where maybe you hit a little high, and you hit like maybe this part, which ricocheted the shell or something like that. Or, I mean, I've even blown up Tigers by hitting the commander's cupola. The shrapnel just goes through the roof of the tank. Or the roof of the turret, rather. It just, this gets the job done. Look at the x-ray, the shrapnel just enters here and just sets it on fire, kills everybody. It's just bad. Just really bad for the Tiger. Panthers the same way. So you see how the turret is set in the middle, just like the Tiger. Also has this shell trap. If you hit him in the face, the shrapnel is going to go down right through the roof of his tank right here. And you have ammo under there. You have the driver, the machine gun. You know, besides the fact the gun's going to be absolutely wrecked. So you can kind of see what I mean. This tank does not run into anything it can't deal with this gun. Now the rate of fire kind of sucks. 25.2 seconds. I have a decent crew. It can be much lower, obviously, but the rate of fire is kind of what limits you in killing tanks. But that's, I mean, that's what you expect with a 152 millimeter shell. It takes a long time to put that puppy in. So an overview. It's a big game hunter. Kills Tigers, kills Panthers, kills everything. Everything dies. Good news is delivered. Its weaknesses. The armor isn't great, but with angling you can get it to basically be a net 100 across all fronts that they can shoot you at, which is nice. However, if they can penetrate 100 millimeters, not so nice. Alright. The gun, HE, is really, really effective anti-tank shell. The AP is okay, but it has a chance of ricocheting. Don't take those chances. Just fire HE. If you hit the face of a tank, it's going to blow up. Good news will be delivered. Gun depression is weak, but that's the same with most Russian tanks, and it's not a slow tank. It's actually fairly maneuverable. It's not great. It's not a medium tank, but it's honestly better than a heavy tank. So that's good. So with that, let's jump into some replays. So here we are in a realistic battle on Ash River. I'm joined in this game by Mr. Wehrmacht Officer. I can't say the name of the German army. I'm sorry. Can't be done. Can't do it. Won't do it. Can't do it. It's just too hard for me to pronounce. I'm sure if I sat down and tried to learn, I'm sure I could, but anyway. In this battle, life gets more exciting at the end. I'll say that with this battle. But myself and my comrade are driving SU-152s, and I'm going to go for, there's a lot of tanks on our team. Usually I would like to go up onto that higher ridge with this tank because the gun, it has poor gun depression, right? Well, if you sit up there, you're far enough away where your gun depression actually doesn't matter because you have to aim above that anyway to hit people. If that makes any sense? So it's actually not a bad idea. You can sit on level ground up there and still hit targets below you. But because we have so many teammates over here, might as well take the more aggressive route. So we're going to push up over here and try and put down flank shots onto enemies rushing towards A. Obviously we don't want them to capture A, we'd rather capture A. Since we have so many team members up here, it's important for us to, I guess, dominate this part of the map. Just take a quick look to my right, make sure that no one's sneaking around over there. But I got to my favorite little ambush spot, and there's actually no one there. So I back up. I'm keeping my eye over there. I'm going to back up and go shoot this AI because, you know, with this gun, if you want to do well, you do have to fire it early, you know, often, as often as possible at targets worth hitting. But now I notice that there are some enemy tanks lit up. So those are going to become new priority targets. AI mean nothing when there's enemy tanks to shoot. So lock onto those guys. Can actually arc the shell over that if I can get them spotted. First shell misses, which is a little... It's going to happen a lot in this tank. I mean, you need to be aware of that. But so I back up. I'm getting out of the way. Squad mate's going to run up and take his shot. But while I'm reloading, just stop over here. Just wait to execute this AI. Poor AI. Didn't know what he was doing. With this gun, it's always better to shoot them at people in the turret. The turret, it's just... The shrapnel goes down from the explosive shell, and it more than often than not knocks out the tank if you shoot him in the turret face. Because most German tanks are center-mounted turrets, so that when the shrapnel goes down, it goes through the roof of the tank, which is generally fairly thin. But we have a boatload of AI that's spawned in, and are certainly worth killing. But there are heavy tanks over here, and there's one. A nice Tiger. Now, his gun can very easily one-shot me. I say very easily, like almost 99% of the time. If I get hit dead on in the face by a Tiger gun, it'll cause some serious problems for me. So I'm gauging distance, and I'm kind of just waiting for him to come around the corner so I can get the first shot on him. Or at least if he does shoot first, my shell's already on the way. There is a tank destroyer who's creeping up over there, who could be a little bit of an issue. But I'm also kind of focused on this Tiger. The tank destroyer is not an immediate threat. He will be soon, but we can deal with it then. The Tiger, on the other hand, made the misfortune of coming around, and you can see what I mean. The shell net everything else, blew out his cannon barrel. So I'm safe to just sit here. Now, my second shell is going to be a little less fortunate, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember everything about this battle, so I'm curious to see what happens. I'm pretty sure I don't knock him out with this shell. Yep, didn't do it. Unfortunate. But squad mate's going to roll up, fire his shell, and deliver the good news. With the classic, the primary motive for delivering good news has to be 152 millimeters of good news. And the Tiger gets what's coming for him and gets knocked out. So now it's time to deal with that tank destroyer. Because he's basically the last guy on this flank, and now we're going to eventually push into their spawn. So it's important we deal with this guy. I don't know 100% where he is. I don't even know what he is. Hindsight, I think he's at Hetzer. But he is going to receive, that is for sure. Don't Hetz me. Oh no, it's a Yak Panzer IV, never mind. He's not even looking at me. Oh no, he was looking at me. Lol. Did you see what I mean? If you shoot people in the face, a lot of times the shrapnel does them in. And you'll certainly knock out their gun, if nothing else. And I think I've been saved countless times by my first shell knocking out their gun and them being unable to do anything about it. Which is always nice. But now it's time to start the pain train. What do I mean by pain train? I mean double 152mm guns going to work on some poor defenseless enemies. We're pushing forward. We've cleared this ridge. It's time to push into their cap because the game's almost over and we're scrambling for those last points and last kills and things like that. I'm going to run face first into a Hetzer, but he stands no chance against strong Russian gun. I mean, this gun is kind of designed for indirect fire, not necessarily killing tanks. it's just so effective at it. It's like anything. Its original use doesn't mean it's the most effective use. But time to move forward. The enemy might be spawning. Or a silly Panzer IV-G comes around the corner and receives 152 millimeters of good news to the side of the face. His cheek, to be exact, I guess. But now we have a serious pain train because my teammate is also killing the enemy. And it's just on reload, just keep this gun firing, and that's how you do really well in this tank. I was trying to go for a double here. I know you can do it, but oh, they're spaced out just a little bit too much. I rushed the shot, wrecked the Stug, but the other Stug is going to live. Bombs are incoming. It was a fun game. It really was. I enjoyed it. Derp shots, no matter how many you have, are always fun. But the key is that to do well in this tank, you gotta keep the gun firing, but also usually I'd suggest aiming for the turret because normally you'll either knock out their gun or else you'll just knock them out. But anyway, let's move on to the next replay. So in this battle, you're going to see this tank used in its most glorious occupation: indirect fire on enemy positions. Now, do I hit anything? Debatable. I think this replay kind of shows that a lot of times it's better to just fire with this tank. If you're in a safe position and there's no immediate threats, take a YOLO shot, you know, over a hill or something like that. Maybe you'll hit him. Maybe you'll blow him up. You never know. But we're here on Mozdok, and my first inclination is to sit over here next to this tree, kind of try and conceal myself and look for enemy tanks. There are some spotted. And I think it's a Tiger way out there. So I fire a shot, just kind of rushed it. Because a lot of times, I mean, it doesn't matter where I hit the Tiger. If I hit him, he's going to feel it. And depending on where I hit him, I may or may not knock him out. But when you hit any tank with this gun, something will break. If you hit him near the gun's going to break, which is always nice. You know, you hit them in the rear, you're likely to set their engine on fire or break their engine or something. Because this gun isn't necessarily about penetrating the enemy armor. The just concussive blast of these 152mm shells delivers the good news just fine. And I'm not sure if it's modeled in the game, but something real life that happens is when you fire very high-powered explosive shells at armor, the inside of the armor actually fractures and sprays little armor fragments everywhere, which can be an issue for crew members. But what I'm doing right now is I feel safe in this position. I'm not sure that they know where I am. I mean, if they looked at their mini-map, they could probably spot me. But I'm in a decent enough spot, this ridge in general. I'm going to change position just because I fired a couple times from there. Not a bad idea to move, in case someone's, you know, kind of lined up on that spot. But I'm trying to use shade, trying to use just whatever concealment I can get. There's a Tiger over there. I think he's backing up, and I actually saw him right there, so I sent the shell. It didn't hit exactly where I wanted. With this gun, you can a lot of times arc it over hills and hit things hiding behind the hill. But I think the Tiger's hugging the hill way too much, and he's not high enough on it for me to splash him or land the shell on him. But I am going to eventually get bored of this and just start moving forward, because it's not a whole lot I can do from this position. I mean, I'm just sending shells at his general direction, which is not a bad idea in this tank, but I only get 20 rounds, regardless of what the layout says. And I'd rather not switch to the AP, just because if the AP doesn't penetrate, nothing bad happens. If the HE doesn't penetrate, bad stuff still happens. Good news is delivered. So I'd much rather stick to HE and keep using that. There is an enemy tank spotted up here, though. Now, I was worried about that heavy tank way off to the side, but then I realized, wait, he's like a million miles away from me. I feel pretty safe moving forward. And I have tanks on the other side of the ridge keeping me safe over there. But there's a Panther, and I actually saw the muzzle flash there. Fire my first shell, misses, unfortunate. I think it went over. But I move forward to get out of artillery, but also drop into this ditch. Primarily because it's going to make him come a little bit farther over to shoot at me. And also just gets me a little bit closer so that when it does come time to shoot him in the face, I just took a hit. It looks like it went off the side. Well, angling probably saved me there. But I'm going to keep pushing forward until I can see him. Now that's a prime example of just shoot it in the front. I hit his gun, or I hit the base, the top of his upper glacis, and the explosion actually took out his gun. So he either needs to sit there and repair it, or try and deal with me. He decided to sit there and try and repair it. It's an unfortunate life choice, I will say. And the good news was delivered. That time I hit him at the base of the turret. It already has a shot trap on the D, on the Panther D, so that didn't help, but also just the explosive force of the shell just wrecked his tank. And historically, that's what SU-152 crews did to German tanks. They shot it in the turret because just the blast from this heavy-duty shell was enough a lot of times to blow out the turret, which obviously would knock the tank out and render it unusable. Now there is a Tiger down over here. He's on the other side of that ditch. It'd be really nice if he would come over the top, because then I can just get a free shot on him. And a lot of times my first shot is going to knock out their gun. But there is other stuff over there. And I can see the Tiger moving. I'm waiting for him to show enough of his turret, and then we deliver a nice hit. I kind of waited for him to stop as well. Just because, if he doesn't stop, it just makes my life harder. But, so we knocked out the Tiger. No big deal. Easy, easy. I am worried about other tanks, though. I need to move forward, but I don't really want to move forward. The protection I've had so far is that the German tanks haven't been able to put really effective fire onto me. I know there's a Tiger over there, but I just don't quite know where he is, so I kind of need to move forward. And actually, one of my buddies bumped my arm right there. That's why I went flying up. I'm staying in sniper view just to kind of keep an idea where he is so I can quickly launch the shell if it becomes necessary. But what this Tiger was doing was, annoying, I guess. He's going to be on the other side of the ditch, and we're kind of going to play chicken, which is ultimately going to be an issue for us both, more so for him, I guess, and I guess by extension me. But I'm moving forward now. My teammates have moved forward, and it's fairly important that I knock out this Tiger so that my teammates can keep advancing, because he's kind of got that side of that little ditch locked down. So if we try and push over the top into that ditch, he's just going to shoot everybody. So it's important that we, I guess, lock down this guy. He's actually behind that tree, just kind of hanging out. Now I was looking for him, like, where is this guy? And then I realized, oh wait, he must be just on the other side of that little hill. Now there is a Jagdpanzer 470 over on the over to my left. And he's going to be a serious issue. Now this Tiger is my main concern, though. I can't give a Tiger my sides. I'll die. At least the Panzer 470 may not kill me. The Tiger certainly will. So I need to keep this guy in front of me with my gun pointed at him, ready to deliver good news. And this entire situation was achieved by me advancing. The Panzer 470 knocked out my teammate, so he might be just looking over here now. So I need to push the issue on this guy. I need to make him try and engage me. So I start backing up and kind of rotate. I'm trying to break connection with him so that he decides to move forward and try and take a pot shot, in which case I'll be ready for him. And I like my chances of disabling him more so than, well, I mean, both of us have a really good shot. It's basically whoever hits the other first is probably going to win. I mean, the advantage I have is that if my shell connects, I'm going to damage his tank. If his shell connects, I might get really, really lucky, and maybe it skips off the top of the tank, or the gun mantlet takes it. I don't know, something. Maybe just shoots at a really weird angle, or hits something that's not important, like at this point my tracks, because I can still turn the tank. As long as he doesn't get my gunner, my gun, or anything like that, I can still shoot him. I can still return fire. On the other hand, if I shoot him at this range, it's almost certainly going to get his gun. And I'm backing off because I want him to make a move. And the Panzer 470 I know is looking this way now, but I need this guy to make a move, so I guess I kind of forced his hand by backing up. His first shot, he got the first shot, but didn't do anything to my tank. My first shot went, hit him square in the turret and knocked him out. I mean, he didn't play it wrong. That's what I would have done. He just got unlucky and didn't knock me out. But now I'm kind of stuffed. Panzer 470 nailed my my gunner and my driver. I'm gonna have to reload the gun. Yeah, I'm pretty much toast. There goes my, I think, horizontal drive. Yeah, I'm stuffed. I gotta reload and then I gotta repair, and yeah, we knew that was coming. But anyway, it was still a really fun game. It still highlighted some of the things you can do with this tank. No matter what it is, if you can see it at this tier, you can kill it, and you will kill it if you hit it in the face. So, let's move on to the final opinion, shall we? Alright, so opinion time. What do I think of the SU-152? I think it's a really, really good big game hunter. Tigers and Panthers. Bring them on, right? It's a really, really fun tank to drive. If you like your SU-122, you're going to love the SU-152 because it's a bigger gun, and it causes even more pain when you hit stuff. It's just the perfect gun for Russian rank 3s trying to deal with Tigers. If you see these things and the enemy has a lot of Tigers the enemy has a lot of Tigers and you have a couple of these on your team, you want to protect these things. Oof, that's some sneezes. You want to protect these things because they can knock out a Tiger at any range as long as they can get the shell on target. So if you're a solid SU-152 driver, you can basically dominate a rank 3 game by just sending shells down at them, indirect fire, whatever you want to do. If you hit them in the face, they're going to die, which is nice. So that's kind of my summed up opinion of this tank. I really like it. I think it's good. I think you'll enjoy it. So with that, I think that'll be it for this review. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to put them in the comments section. I'll be more than happy to read, write back, or comment back in general. And I hope it was helpful. I hope you learned some. I hope I maybe showed you some tips on how to play the tank. So, anyway, I've been Corny Swiss, and I'll see you next time.